mind. You're putting me in charge of this glider.
That's terrifying. Okay, what terrifying opening are you wishing?
Are you ready? Are we recording?
Yes, we are recording.
You are letting me pilot this glider blind.
Stop recording.
Yeah, I know immediately. Like,
mute,
no,
cancel,
never,
delete, self-destruct.
All right, here I got it.
Okay,
this is our little opening thing.
All right,
everybody out there.
I'm gonna hold on to my.
Are you grabbing your honey bun?
So what he's talking about is a cinnamon roll. Chris, our other podcast host, was kind enough to bring me a cinnamon roll, but they're called honey buns. They're glazed. They're from Clover Hill. It smells amazing. Okay, what's your start?
What is your favorite Star Trek kind of gadget? Like, isn't that interesting? Because there's so many interesting little doodads and gadgets they sprinkle throughout all of Star Trek. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of like, what's your favorite little gadget that you see someone like just using all the time or whatever? I mean, and that includes the other things, not just the old school stuff, but the new school stuff too.
I think for me, one of my favorites, I have two. One of my favorites is the above bed kind of thing in sickbay. Okay. Which I believe, if I remember my Trek correctly, overbed, I think it's overbed's console sickbay is called. I think it's the. I think it's the operating table is what it actually is.
Okay.
Hold on a second. Operating table, operating console. Let's see. Console, Star Trek sickbay. Let's see here. Images. So yeah, there's a thing that sits over people.
Okay.
And I think it's called the operating room. I could be wrong. I'm looking for the operating console, operating surgery, Star Trek sickbay. Let's just say that surgery.
Okay.
Surgery.
Now, why? While you're looking for the actual name.
So I think it's fun because as advanced as we are in Star Trek, we still have to have like an operating mechanism. Yeah. Like there has to be something that is sanitary and is covering like whoever that's we still have to have that. Yeah. And that's what I get a kick out of. I like that's still a thing. It also like monitors like vital signs and things, but it can be used to do operating and stuff like that. So that's my favorite. My second favorite thing is the medical tricorder. Yeah. Which is different from the regular tricorder. Yeah. And the medical tricorder has a little thing that you pull out.
Yeah, it has a little metal thing you kind of wipe over someone. Yeah, yeah.
And it gives you more detail. And I always just thought that was kind of cool because, and I can't remember if it's what episode it's in or what Star Trek it's in, but somebody asks for a tricorder. And, the Doctor. So in Star Trek Voyager, in the Caretaker episode, when they get flung across the space and time and the Doctor, the chief medical officer dies or is injured. Yeah. And the EMH is activated. I think it's Harry Kim comes down and says, what help do you need? He's like, I need a tricorder. And Harry Kim just hands him a normal tricorder. He says, no, medical tricorder. Yes. And I love that idea that there's a separate tricorder for humans versus a tricorder for everything else. So those are my two favorites.
Mine has always been the tricorder. Just a straight up regular tricorder. It's like, this is like a jack-in-the-box kind of handy scanning tool. That does anything from like translating languages to scanning an object, telling you the composition of something.
Hold on. Okay, so I had to go grab. So I have an actual toy from the late 90s.
Yeah, of the tricorder.
It's an actual Star Trek The Next Generation tricorder.
I wish you guys could see it. Because like that's the thing that fascinates me about it is because it's also got like encyclopedia knowledge in there and all kinds of stuff where it's kind of like, and it could store it in your pocket. Yeah. And it was just, so we talk a lot about our cell phones today, right? Yeah. And that's what it would be. It would be a smartphone. Yeah, it'd be like their version. Yeah, essentially, yes. Yeah. But it's like more for like scientific-y stuff than, I'm going to play Candy Crush.
Yeah. So it folds open, and it's actually the toy, because it is I think it's Playmates. Let me see if this is. Playmates by Playmates Toys. Authorized user. So Playmates has, and I think they still have the license for this, but you click it on.
I can hear it. They should be able to hear it.
But it makes sounds. And then it lights up. So like the alpha, beta, theta, and the gamma readings. That's really all there is to it. None of the other buttons really work. But for a late 90s toy, I mean, if you made a tricorder toy now, in this day and age, in 2022, you would have all kinds of fun stuff.
Oh, yeah. I mean, they have Foley cell phones.
Yeah, Foley cell phones. So this is just kind of cool. I don't even know how I got this, to be honest with you. But I have used it in Star Trek cosplay to conventions and stuff like that. And it actually has a clip that you can clip on your belt. And it's legit. It's the size. It's 1-to-1. But yeah, that's one of my prouder toys that I owned. I still have. I mean, it's original. So this is. When does it say this is copyright? Does it even have a date on it? I don't even think it does. Oh, 1995? Is that possible?
I don't know. It's just your hands. It's not mine.
Oh, it's hard to read. I think it says 1995. Or whatever. So yeah, this was a toy that was it's authorized. So it is.
Yeah, I mean it's a tricorder.
I'm sure it's probably worth some money somewhere, but I just like to say that I have an officially licensed tricorder, and like
you just seen as soon as I mentioned tricorder, he just slapped
I
pause
knew,
and ran.
I knew I had it. I knew I had it here somewhere. So there, yeah, the tricorder is a fun one.
But yeah, it's a cool little gadget they just have. And then the other one, it's like you don't see it so much in the older ones, but in like Star Trek Next Generation, like the badge on their chest that you can tap, and there's your communications.
Yep, I have several of those. I don't know if I have them here, but I have. The old Star Trek, I have a uniform from Star Trek, Star Trek Wrath of Khan. I have a uniform, full on with everything on it and everything.
Cool. Like the thick wool. Oh, man.
Yep. So, like, and I, like, the communicator badges are always cool to me because it's like, it is a phone in just a badge. Like, Kirk to bridge or Picard to bridge. Picard to Kirk. And so, what's cool about it is the idea is that there's the processing power of that is it's voice recognition.
Yep.
But it also is able to then connect to the ship or connect to whoever and reach out to them, be using voice command and voice familiarity. So there's like it's split second.
Yeah.
It's not like Kirk to Picard to bridge. 1, 2, 3. It's immediate. Like
and you don't hear the girl from Ipanema in the background.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there you go.
Star Trek. Please stay on the line. The bridge will be with you shortly.
Please continue to hold. All bridge officers are currently helping other customers.
Yeah.
Please continue to hold. So there you go. Star Trek. And there, if you go online and you search for Star Trek Playmate toys, I have a lot of figures. I used to have the bridge. I had to get rid of it though. Someday I'm going to get that back. There's an engineering set of Star Trek Next Generation.
Cool.
There's
also a lithium crystals.
There's a there's a transporter room that goes, and they actually all connect on as one play set eventually.
That's cool.
Yeah, that was my childhood. Star Trek
you
toys.
You need to buy that and put it in like a shelf or collector's box.
I'm not a collector like that. I like to play with stuff. I don't know. I've never been that kind of a collector, but maybe someday we'll see. The tricorder I will hold on to forever. I'm sure I could get it cleaned up so it looks really nice, but I just like the fact that I have that and I can scan people if I need to.
I know, right?
There we go.
I'm just saying, it's like there's so many cool gadgets.
On the subject of Star Trek, coming up next is going to be our talking and discussion of Star Trek 3 Search for Spock versus Star Trek Beyond, and the discussion of what went right and what went wrong. Yeah. All that and more coming up next.
Get nerdy with me. Talk nerdy to me. Get nerdy with me. All I really need for you to do is just please.
I can stop.
Talk to me. Talk nerdy to me.
Trust the Force, as they say.
Yeah.
All right, welcome back. And we're trusting the Force and James and Star Trek all in one, which is a bit of a mixing of metaphors. But we're here, and that's what we're doing. Okay, so fair statement. I was not able to watch these movies before we discussed them, but I have my plot outlines, and I've remembered enough of them.
Well, I mean, you are the Trekkie.
I am.
If you don't remember this stuff, it's like you should be tossed out an airlock.
Right. Which would be a painful experience. It's been seen. So here's the thing.
Or hit with what is? Okay,
yes.
We see the kind of difference in the Search for Spock here, where the Klingon weapon versus a phaser weapon. Like that Klingon weapon it's disruptor, right? Is what they call it. It just basically atomized that guy.
Mm-hmm.
Like, boom, you're just gone.
Yeah.
Versus a phaser just kind of like shot the guy and, well, he's still there, but he's, just blasted him back.
Yeah, well, and phasers have different settings. Phasers have stun. There's like 3 settings. It's stun versus something and then kill.
Okay.
And so Klingon blasters, my suspicion is there is no stun setting on a Klingon blaster.
I have a good feeling there's probably not. No.
Yeah, they don't. There's no OSHA in the Klingon Empire.
And the other thing too is like when was it Kirk? Krug.
Yeah.
Well,
which is Christopher Lloyd.
I was going to say Doc Brown, the Klingon.
I love that we were able to claim Doc. We were able to claim Christopher Lloyd as a Star Trek actor.
But it was one of those things like when he shot that guy with the thing, like he looked like he was in pain until he was totally gone. And I'm like, what is up with the Klingon disruptor? Like what?
Well,
and you as a Trekkie, I was going to put this to you instead of doing my research myself. Because like, wait. What is going on here? Why is their weapon so brutal?
Well, because Klingons are obviously the brutal warrior culture.
Yeah.
And the thing about Klingon culture and Klingon houses and the Klingon experience is different houses have different values. Mm-hmm. So different houses have different mottos. It's a lot like medieval England where, you had this family and they were this and they were warlike and these were more peaceful. So within the Klingon houses and the Klingon, you could call it almost like not oligarchy, but even monarchy, if you will, because there is the chancellor and he's in charge. And then you have the different houses and they have competing, and the Klingon Empire is generally always at war with each other because they're trying to, supplant the other with the other, and they're trying to compete. And it's a whole, it's a whole thing. But it's with the disruptors. I think it's just Klingon brutality.
Yeah.
Death should not be easy. Death should be brutal. Death should hurt. Death should be worthy of death in that way. And so, like, there's a reason why Worf. The common saying that Worf would always say is, "Today is a good day to die." Yeah, and it is that celebration of death, and I think why obviously that character when he gets blasted is surprised is he wasn't expecting to get zapped by his captain. But I don't know. I get a kick out of it just because it is the brutality. But again, different houses have different means. Yeah. So different houses have peace.
Well, I mean, this guy just seemed like comically evil.
Yeah.
Versus like being like a bad guy you could really take seriously.
Right.
Like he just felt like comedic. Like, way over the top than he should have been.
Yeah.
And like that weird dog creature that he had next to his... I'm like, what is this?
Lord of the Rings is invading our Star Trek set, apparently.
Oh.
or Star Wars is invading. I don't know. So, yeah, this... Star Trek 3 is... I like Star Trek 3. We lose Kirstie Alley.
Yeah.
And we get... Who is it? Is it Robin Curtis who we get
I think
in place?
So. Yes.
I don't know the story. I know there is a story, obviously, of what happened with the change out.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. Either are fine. Like, I don't mind either of them. Robin Curtis plays her more logical.
Yep.
And the interesting story that I forgot, I can't remember if we talked about this or if I read it somewhere, but Kirstie, Saavik, is it Saavik? Is it
Saavik, Lieutenant Saavik, yeah.
She is half Romulan and half Vulcan.
Whoa.
So that is something it was cut from the script and the scenes, but it was alluded to and confirmed in either the novelization or something. So Saavik is half Romulan, half Vulcan. We know
that's a complicated relationship right there.
Yes, because Vulcans originally separated from Romulans and became the peaceful, logical, emotionless creatures versus Romulans who were. So that separation that happened thousands of years ago was the Romulans leaving. So they were Vulcans originally.
Yes.
And they obviously evolved and continued in their warlike vigor.
Well, I mean, they believed more in being emotional.
Right. And so the Vulcans distanced themselves from that and became the Vulcan culture and the whole story there.
Because also, like, that's why it was pointed out to me more than anything else. It's just like, that's why, like, Vulcans are, like, super strong because Vulcan, the planet, has a ton of gravity. So the Vulcans themselves are, like, massively strong, but Romulans are not because they moved to a different planet, different effects on their physiology.
Yep.
So they don't have that super strength that Vulcans do.
Right.
Which is the other thing is like kind of like when we saw young Spock coming up, whatever, and throwing his tantrums. I'm like, why wasn't he like heaving these people around like they're rag dolls?
Right. So we get.
We'll get there. Well, go ahead.
we're on our way. So then we have the introduction of Christopher Lloyd, and first we get the Enterprise arriving at on pre-approach scan. This is still the death of Spock is hanging over this movie.
Yeah.
We don't know his result. A new planet's been created. Like the crew returns. The Enterprise.
They put like an interdiction zone around the Genesis planet where it's like no one goes there unless everybody in Federation High Command says you can go there.
There's only one science vessel that's assigned to it.
Yep.
Things like I think Carol Marcus is involved in there, along with her son David.
Yeah,
they're in that loop there. The ship has been torn apart. It is not.
I like how they did this. This is picking right back up.
Yep.
Like. He just bopped Khan.
Yep.
So the Enterprise is in bad shape.
Yeah. It's
you
a hot
can
mess.
see like huge areas where it's just been like welded shut to be safe.
Yeah. And so then they, one of the officers says, "Will there be a welcoming party?" And Kirk's like, "A hero's welcome, son. Is that what you'd like?" And, well, God knows there should be. We paid we've paid for the party with our dearest blood, which is a connection to Scotty's nephew. And the rest of the crew that died.
Yeah.
But that's a reference to that dynamic. He becomes emotional. So then we get the introduction to Christopher Lloyd's character, which I love. I love Krug. I know he's comical at best at times.
He's a comedic villain where it's just kind of like, But I kind of get it. You needed to have some sort of bad guy in here.
Yep.
And if it was a more serious bad guy, this movie would have gone in a way different way.
Yeah.
Instead we got a campy bad guy, which allowed the movie to be what it was.
We also get the first introduction back at Earth with the massive space station.
Yes.
That we haven't seen until now.
Mm-hmm.
That is the first time we see what is now known as like Earth, the massive kind of space station that we're used to seeing in Star Trek. And we see the Excelsior, the great experiment.
Advanced.
The great experiment. Sulu seems to be in awe, of course, because Sulu will be captain of her eventually.
Yeah.
And Mr. Scott is just not happy about it at all. And so that works. Then we get a callback. There's someone in Spock's quarters.
Oh, yeah.
And this, I love, I cannot tell you how much I love this storyline. Mm-hmm. Because the one man that is given Spock's Katra is Bones.
Yeah.
And just like the way that DeForest Kelley plays this is just like there should have been an Academy Award for this. The man
that's a little pushing it.
It
was still good.
It's legit because you know the weight he's carrying with him and you know what's going on.
Well, you kind of have like two people sharing the same brain and body.
It's not good. So he's he hears Spock's voice, "Jim, help me. You left me on Genesis. Why did you do that? Help me." Kirk runs forward and finds it out to be Leonard McCoy, mumbling about locations on Vulcan, etc., and then calls Uhura, get them here. So they're met by Fleet Admiral Morrow. They say, by the way, they'll be given the highest commendation.
Yeah, I do want to say this as like a commentary in this movie. All the other Federation people we get to see are just like weird and kind of campy.
Yeah.
Like they're not they just didn't bother to get good actors or whatever even polish up their lines a little better.
Yeah.
Because this whole speech this guy gives is kind of just like feels awkward and forced.
Yeah.
Especially forcing what he's doing onto these other characters as we find out what he tells Scotty.
Yeah.
Where it's kind of like, that's so awkward to do that to a person. Just, nope, it doesn't matter. You're coming with me.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like, that made me feel kind of disgusted where it's just kind of like, this is just awkward and weird. And there's a lot of chunks in this movie where it's like that.
Yeah.
Except for one with our main characters. It seems like whoever was writing the main characters' parts cared about that.
Yeah.
But everything else.
Yeah. Kind of just got left by the wayside.
Yeah. It's kind of like, this is so like tertiary, not even secondary, tertiary.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree. And it's interesting to watch these movies again and kind of look over and go, well, that's interesting that kind of happened.
Yeah. And and a lot of the budget, I guess, on set pieces and things felt they
reused stuff. Yeah, Star Trek Search for Spock they didn't invest as much. But again, Star Trek movies always ran on a budget. They were never given the full power of the. I think maybe Undiscovered Country was one of the ones that was really given a strong budget. Yeah, because they had the Excelsior Bridge and they had the Enterprise Bridge and they had a lot more going on there. So then. Commander Scott is promoted to captain, which is a little weird.
Captain of Engineering. It's like,
I guess it is a title. It is within the system.
Yeah.
And then they find out that unfortunately, no, the Enterprise is 20 years old. She's done. We're gonna trash her.
Which is weird in the movie time frame, you know?
Yeah.
Because like when they go up against V'ger,
Yeah.
She's brand new, baby.
Yeah.
That's why Kirk doesn't understand half her systems.
Yeah.
And then we get the last movie where it's like, oh, we're sending out a fresh crew. There are a whole bunch of brand new recruits to take over the Enterprise.
Yep.
And we cut to this movie where it's like, yeah, she's been shot up a little bit, but you can fix her.
Right.
And it's like,
20 years
this is like right after Wrath of Khan.
Right.
It's kind of like, oh, now we're flushing her down the toilet. It's like, wait a second. You just loaded her up with recruits to go learn and take her over.
So the line that he says that Jim is 20 years old. We feel her day is over. So the thing is that the Enterprise refit, the Constitution refit, they basically took the original bones of the Enterprise and refit her completely-ish. And so what I think they try to do storyline here is we refit her. She's taken a beating. It's not worth the cost of having to rebuild that girl. And I know I don't agree. I think
I don't. That doesn't make sense.
I think
really.
it's a little. But again, it may just be that Morrow. So it's Fleet Admiral Morrow. It may just be that, he thinks that this is like that they're making decisions about his captainship that a captain would never make, but the admiral can make, maybe.
Yeah.
Because we talk like the storyline of Kirk has always been, don't be an admiral, be a captain. You should never be a captain. Don't be. You always deserve to sit in that seat.
Yeah.
And so maybe this dynamic is, well, if Scotty becomes captain of engineering.
Yeah, it's kind of like, what?
And then they tell him like you're on your own.
It's the way he told him was just kind of like,
yeah,
no, you don't get to do that.
Yeah,
you're going over here, captain of engineering. Suck it up.
Yeah,
it's just kind of the way it seems.
Yeah, you're on your own, bud. Bye.
Like his emotional attachment to anybody, whatever.
Yeah,
it's like, oh, and you know what? We're announcing it here in front of everybody.
Yeah. So I wonder if it was the goal of the writers to kind of create this idea of Starfleet as kind of this unfeeling, kind of uncaring, kind of behemoth that had just forgotten about Kirk and his crew, because it does become apparent in Star Trek 4, Star Trek 3, at the end of Star Trek 3, and then with Star Trek 4, that they have kind of they've judged him wanting, that they don't think that the overall opinion of Kirk is he's a bad guy, he's a rule breaker, and he should be demoted, and they're mad and everything. But then, like, he gets the humpback whales, comes back and saves the world.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's like, look at what he does in this movie.
Yeah.
Like, where he basically steals the Enterprise. And it's kind of like, ooh, man.
Yeah, that's pretty big.
And, like, basically his whole crew backed him.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, as like an organization to have someone do that and be like, man, what it is like, you wanted to throw the book at this guy.
Yeah.
Even though what he did was right, but it's kind of like, oof. Because for a fact that even though Sarek is kind of like an unfeeling, logical man as he is, but he's always been a supporter of Starfleet and a big proponent for all that connections.
Yeah.
Getting his son back, Sarek, just from little bits, I know he would have gone back to Starfleet and said that Kirk was right and would have stood up for him.
Yeah. Well, I love the character. So Sarek is played by a legit legendary actor, Mark Leonard. And he played Sarek through the original series and through all the movies. Mm-hmm. He played him so well. Like, he epitomized Sarek. And I think he even played him in The Next Generation.
He did.
Because it's just like, when you talk, and that's the thing. For a moment, I'm going to take a spotlight off, or jump off for a second. The thing about Star Trek that makes it work, the original series and the original movies, and The Next Generation and beyond, the reason why it works is because the actors continue to play. That may have been mine.
Yeah, okay.
The actors all stay on.
Yeah.
Like, everyone plays on. The thing about New Trek is there's no guarantee that they will.
I know, that kind of like, ugh.
And that's the part that's hard is that the reason why the original series, the original motion pictures all succeed is because those actors were sold out for those roles. Now, they were paid, obviously, and they were contracted, but they wanted to play the role and tell that story. Yeah. It took some work with Nimoy and a couple others, but they held it together through Undiscovered Country.
Yeah, because that's a question of mine. Is like, why? What was up? Was Nimoy just trying to break away from being typecast, or
a little bit? I think he also kind of felt like he wasn't being treated fairly. He was kind of annoyed about the character. He wasn't sure if he wanted to play Spock anymore. There's a lot that goes into what happens with Nimoy. Mm-hmm. He comes back, obviously, and obviously he comes back to New Trek as well.
Yeah.
The only player to come back to New Trek, or that they managed to fit in.
Well, I mean, after we saw what happened in Generations, you really can't do anything with Kirk. He's dead.
Yeah, that was a whole hot mess. We'll talk about that one of these days, because that that is a point of contention among many Trekkies. Majority of Trekkies is what they did in Generations.
Well, I mean, yeah. I think the blanket term you can throw over all the Next Generation movies is like none of these should happen.
Well, no.
I mean, granted, they tell stories.
I think First Contact was amazing.
Okay, yeah, there you go. But it's like, ugh.
Generations had its moments. But yeah, like Nemesis was terrible.
Yes.
Nemesis was awful. It was never should have been. Insurrection was interesting for the topic that it covered, but it was a bit awkward and uncomfortable. And I didn't really
like. And the other thing is, like I said, it's like they. Aside, well, First Contract I guess was okay, but the other ones were kind of like you started getting like action Picard.
Yeah.
And that to me was like you've don't know what you're doing.
You've jumped the shark, and I think it was Insurrection where they're in the buggies, or whatever it is, and it's like, oh come on. Guys.
And then you started like sidelining the other characters, just kind of like doing stuff but not being that important.
Yeah.
And that felt really wrong. Yep. And I'm just kind of like, and it's like you have Riker is the guy that does the action stuff, not Picard. Yeah. So if you need someone to get into a fist fight with somebody, make it Riker. Yeah. Picard is the guy that is the, like for that time frame, he's the great kind of like ambassador. Yeah. He's what you wanted to be on those missions they sent him out on because he's such a great thinker. And he backs the line of like, trying to make the best decision, not with your fists. Yeah.
But with your brain.
Yeah. Like that's the character. Yeah. But in those after First Contact, it's kind of like you get to see Picard like fist fighting people, and it's kind of like
no.
I mean, even have Data fist fight the guy. Yeah. Even though Data would probably punch their head off their body, but whatever.
Yeah, the Star Trek Next Generation movies are a bit of a mixed bag, which we will get to eventually. Yeah. Well, we are still stuck. We're still stuck in search. We're still searching for Spock.
We're still searching for Spock. So we can back it up.
To bring it into Sarek. So Sarek says, like, where is my son? Where is his spirit? And Kirk's like, I have no idea what you're talking about. And so Sarek checks Kirk's mind for his Katra. It doesn't find it. Doesn't mind meld. Mm-hmm. And Sarek basically saying like, since the Katra was not passed, all of Spock is lost forever. And this is a moment where you see Sarek really the emotion of the loss of his son and the impact. And the actor just does it so well. But then Kirk says, "Hey, what if the possibility of it would have been in someone else?" So they review the flight recorder and they find out it was McCoy. Yeah. And so,
I mean, that's when they figure out it's like that's why McCoy's acting batty.
Yep.
He hasn't gone space madness.
That's when they figure it out that it's McCoy who's got it. Kirk swears to Sarek he'll get Spock's body back and return him to McCoy to Mount Sela so they can find peace. So they found that they transport to the surface. They found to conduct it closer, and they found Spock's burial robe, and it's like,
well, I mean, the Kirk and them don't know about the whole body being regenerated thing.
Correct.
I mean, for as far as they know, they're chasing after an irradiated corpse.
Yeah. Yeah. But I have.
I mean, I get it. Where it's kind of like, are you going to go back in after him? Yeah. And you're going to pick up an irradiated corpse?
So I know a little more about Vulcan. I write Star Trek role playing. Yeah. And I play a Vulcan character right now. Yeah. And so this is going to get really nerdy for a second. So my Vulcan character that I've written, her father died at like 10 years ago or something like that. And what she didn't know is that at one point in his last days, as she was asleep, he figured out how to pass his Katra to her. So he hides his Katra inside her, so she can't find it. Yeah. And so he dies, and so now her father's Katra is inside her, hanging out, whatever. So there are different ways that Katras can hold on. It can stay in you for a little while. It can't be in there permanently. Yeah. But they also have a Katric arc, which is a stone thing that you create that you then put the Katra into and then store it with other Katras so they're accessible and so they can be talked to.
So you can kind of like talk to your ancestors kind of thing?
Okay. And talk to them about the wisdom, stuff like that. So the Katra is a thing. And so to put it back in the body, which they would then take back to Vulcan and then they would process it into wherever it needs to go. It's a whole thing. Okay. Like it makes sense to me as a Trekkie because I've read a little bit. And
no, you've explained it. Yeah. So it's kind of like I didn't understand before. Yeah. Like why would you be like you have his Katra in bones? Why do you need the body though? Yeah. That's what I don't get because like as far as they know, because no one's really from the from the, what was it, the Garrison? Was the ship that was above there?
Hold on.
Or something like that. It was like the ship that
Grissom.
was... Grissom. There you
Yeah.
go. The Grissom, the ship that's... The science vessel that's there.
Yeah.
They get popped, but no one's making any, like, transmissions back to Starfleet to be like, oh, we found a young Vulcan boy and everything. So no one knows it at the time.
Yeah. Well,
that's why I'm kind of like, I find it weird that it's like, all right, they figure out that Bones has the Katra in him.
Right. Well, so
why do you need the body?
So he will get Spock's body back and return him and Dr. McCoy to Mount Seleia on Vulcan so they can find peace. Part of that peace is getting the Katra out of McCoy back into Spock, but then from Spock's dead body into a Kotric arc or whatever.
That just seems weird to
Vulcan.
me.
It's Vulcan.
I mean,
I've done my research.
Why did you transfer it to the dead guy?
Well, because I think probably because like to have it proper procedure, a proper ceremony, the Kotric can't be in a human. It has to be back in the Vulcan. I don't know. That's what I know. It's little I know, and I'm sure
it just seems like one of those weird gaps they could have done if they would have wrote it a little tighter.
Well,
put in some other stuff in there.
They also were doing this before we had the Kotric arc and all these other things.
Yeah, that's why I'm kind of like.
I think it's just a line that just it probably got away from them a little bit.
Kind of goofy.
Yep. So
like if they would at least had some sort of transmission come back, it was like we found a young Vulcan kid or something.
Yep.
That Kirk and the crew picked up or something, and it's kind of like what?
Yeah.
And then they decide, or now we need to get out the Genesis and figure out what's going on.
Yep. So yeah, they find Spock's body missing entirely. Somebody's screaming in the distance. So Saavik and Marcus start off to find the source. Kirk attempts to get the Enterprise back, but he runs into Morrow. Does not give him back the Enterprise, and so Kirk just says the word is no. When he talks to Sulu and Chekhov, he says the word is no, but therefore I am going anyway.
Yep.
So now he tells them we are committing high treason. This is happening. Meanwhile, McCoy has been trying to charter a ship to...
That scene cracked me up so much.
Yeah. It's fantastic. The alien refuses loudly, and he gets arrested. Of course, he tries to nerve pinch the security officer, but it's unsuccessful.
Like, it is a great little bit of hilarity where it's like McCoy is got like some of Spock's toys in his brain, and he's trying to figure out how to use them, and he can't use it right. So it's like.
Well, and McCoy also raises an eyebrow like Spock does.
Yeah,
and so they have Kirk and Sulu have to rescue him. They assault Federation personnel. So yes, to your point, they do a lot of terrible things here.
Yeah, they do all this stuff where it's like all of you should have been drummed out.
Yeah.
Whoa.
So they all get back to the Enterprise. Scotty has been wiring it like a Christmas tree to make it work.
Yeah, he basically automates the whole ship.
Yep. And so it's interesting to have that conversation in comparison with our conversation about Into Darkness and the ship that they were able to basically have only like 10 to 12 officers on.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like, it shouldn't have been that easy to build a ship like that in that day and age of technology and Kelvin timeline to boot, whatever.
Well, I mean, because we found it was like as soon as when they're engaging, what's the Christopher Lloyd's character again? Krug?
Oh, Krug.
Krug. When they engage Krug and they do get hit with something,
like
all the automation just goes right out the windows. Kai's like, I wasn't planning to go into fighting with this.
we could have made it if it wasn't for this.
Yeah.
So Scotty messes with the transwarp drive on the Excelsior.
Okay, now here's an explanation just for a layman. Because I'm gonna lay it out how I think it is.
Yep.
Then you tell me how close I am.
Yeah.
All right. Regular warp drives, from what I know of Star Trek. All right.
Yeah.
They go up to maybe like warp 5 or whatever, and then probably they start having issues because that's usually what you see everybody doing is like warp 4, warp 5 on a regular warp drive.
Right.
A trans warp drive is just like the stronger version that lets you go past that and stay stable. That's what a trans warp drive is? That's why it's such a big thing?
Transwarp generally refers to speeds and technologies that are beyond conventional warp drives.
Okay.
The warp drives have a natural physical or economical limit beyond which larger speeds are no longer possible. The reference work for Star Trek fact files indicates this limit at a warp factor 9.99. So transwarp is much, much, much faster.
Okay. Because I know it's exponential. When they say like warp 1, warp 2, warp 3, and up so forth, that is a giant exponential arc of speed, folks.
Yeah.
Going towards like infinite speed once you break warp 10, whatever. Once you punch that barrier.
Warp 9.9 is your limit basically, and then transwarp is warp. Well, transwarp is its own just thing. It's a transwarp conduit, and you go faster.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's like it's the more advanced version.
Correct.
That's why it's like you see on a regular warp core they're sticking around warp 4, warp 5. That's kind of like where you top out.
Yeah.
And that transwarp is a new and kind of engine or core type that lets you push it.
Yeah. So the answer to the other question is, so this is from Quora. I was just Googling real quick. It says, in Star Trek, The Search for Spock, Scotty sabotaged the transwarp drive. But why didn't the Federation try again by the time of the Next Generation? Who says they didn't? Option 1 is the Federation continued with trying to make transwarp work, but failed, and by Star Trek 5 or Star Trek 6 had replaced the transwarp drive in Excelsior with the standard warp drive. Maybe they tried multiple times. I haven't figured it out yet. Option 2, what they're referring to as transwarp in Star Trek 3 isn't the same as what they call transwarp by the 24th century, as in the type of transwarp the Borg used. Okay. Transwarp could have just been a fancy term for a new type of warp drive that succeeded and gave the Excelsior and later classes faster speeds than the older ships.
Okay.
They later just went back to referring it to as warp, but it would explain how their ships go so much faster and why they recalibrated the warp scale. Because, yeah, certain starships could only go to warp 7 or whatever, and that was it. Like, that was the limit. And so...
Because, I mean, we saw that kind of in the... They mention it in Beyond when they have the Franklin, where they talk about how this thing can only go so fast.
Yeah, because it's an old ship. It's from the Enterprise time, the Star Trek Enterprise series.
I thought that was a nice little touch where it's like it's the same kind of build class.
There
as
are some really cool touches in Star Trek Beyond, which we'll get to here momentarily. Yeah. So the transwarp. I think what we think of transwarp now, in the idea of Star Trek at that point, transwarp was just warp 8, warp 9. Warp 10
like the further beyond.
Yeah. Okay. So that's my theory, at least. So yeah, they. My favorite line from Scotty when the turbolift, thanks him. He responds with "up your shaft."
Yeah.
So there's a whole bunch of things that are happening. Uhura becomes a transporter operator. Everyone gets into play. Everyone takes their place.
Yep.
And everything works.
And everybody commits treason.
Yep. A chimpanzee and 2 trainees could run her.
Yeah.
And then someone is stealing the Enterprise. So they get out, and this is my favorite, and I like to the point where we talked about in Star Trek Into Darkness about how where are the security forces, where's the shuttle police, where's the guys that can stop this. My theory, at least in my head right now, is nobody had ever expected that someone would try and steal a starship.
Yeah.
Like, that's why they're caught unawares. No one has ever tried this.
Well, I mean, they also did it kind of sneak. Instead of going on there physically, there's like teleporter support.
Yeah.
It's like, whoa.
Yeah.
Because she's... I'm assuming this.
Yeah.
And you can maybe right or wrong if my assumption here. Uhura's transporter room that she's controlling is on Earth. It's in San Francisco. So that's Starfleet base's transporter, which has got to be massively powerful.
Yeah.
Because they're transporting all kinds of stuff up into space.
Yep.
So it's like they use like the Omega transporter
to
beam the crew onto the Enterprise to steal it.
Yep.
So it's like, who would have seen that coming?
Right. And so I thought, what I love about this is that probably after this in canon, it was like, okay, we have to secure our ships, we have to secure Starbase, like we got to have patrols, like we can't have this happen again because we got caught with our pants down, it was bad. So the sabotage to Excelsior happens. Scotty hands McCoy a handful of parts. The Enterprise goes its best possible speed bound for Genesis.
Meanwhile, over this is that beautiful song by the Beastie Boys, Sabotage.
No,
that's what happens in Star Trek movies, right? You play classical music.
I'm gonna punch you from here. Sabotage actually happens in Beyond. Thank you very much. Let's stay on Star Trek 3 for a little bit longer. Good Lord. And I am okay with what happens in Beyond with that song. I am marginally okay with it. I will take it, even though it makes me cranky. So they have found a young Vulcan boy among the cactus. There's also snow.
Yeah, it was weird.
Captain Esteban is reluctant to permit Spock to be aboard. Unfortunately, Krug's bird of prey shows up, is unintentionally destroyed by a lucky shot, and he executes the gunner, vaporizing him. So that's the vaporization you had. There are life signs on the planet, and which pleases Krug, now marooned in the surface and in danger of being captured. They flee to more defensible ground. So they now know it's Spock. Spock is going through his Ponfar, so they're trying to help him with that. Mm-hmm. The Enterprise shows up to the planet. They ask for a scan, gives an impression of Spock. So, like... Yeah,
the McCoy's little impression there of Spock, when all of them jerked their heads around, that was brilliant. That was a good little moment.
Yeah.
And he's like, I said that right? And Kirk's just like, yeah. Yeah.
But that's the cool moment about that. Like, they can earn that moment.
Yeah.
Like this, the filmmakers have done the work for us to feel like, yeah, that's earned. You earned that moment. You earned that nostalgic kind of callback. Like, you get that. Like, that's okay. The Grissom is not there, and their Starfleet is warning the Grissom that the Enterprise is coming, but they don't see the Grissom. So now there's a concern there. And
okay,
yes,
we're going to get to the point, but we're going to get there. But I have a question about it.
What's your question?
Like that warping of the stars?
Yeah,
is that normal for a cloak? Because normally, it's like, I remember in the shows and stuff, the ones that I've seen, it's like you never really see that distortion. So is it because they're close to a planet or something?
No. So so with Birds of Prey, yes, that's not unusual for them to distort space like that.
Okay.
At least in the original in the original series, in the movies.
Okay.
In the original movies, because you remember in Undiscovered Country, you could see the distortion of stars from that. So that happens in the original series, where, because as a viewer we need to see where it's at.
Yeah.
It also is kind of I feel like it's a strong way to say, well, these cloaks aren't perfect.
Okay.
There are still ways to see, and I think even there was a moment either in the original movies or books or something where they say, look for the distortion, you'll see the ship.
Okay.
And so there is some of that of like, no, I see it right there, and you can fire your weapons and you can hit the cloak ship, bring it out of cloak. I don't want to say that for certain because I'm not sure where I encountered that, but there is that element of the cloak is not perfect.
Okay.
You can still detect, you can still see it.
I mean, it's still super sneaky.
Yes.
But it's like one of those things, like you can see them all focusing. And when they figure it out,
yeah,
because it's like, all right, he's going to come out. That's why he hasn't shot yet.
Yep.
Etc. Why didn't they just phaser him up?
Yeah.
Kirk should have shot first. Like, they all know who's there.
Yeah. Maybe Kirk was trying not to shoot first this time.
Well, he still did.
Yeah.
It's just they didn't polish him up. He should have got 3 photon torpedoes instead of 2.
Right. So then we've got,
they exchange fire. That's what happens. He comes out of cloak to like pop the Enterprise.
Yep.
Kirk and crew shoot first. Boom, boom.
Yeah.
And he shoots back, and they cripple each other.
Yep.
The Enterprise is worse crippled because it's still in bad shape.
Yep.
So all the automation stuff goes offline.
Yep.
And then it's kind of like they have this standoff where they try to bluff each other.
Yeah. Well, and so Krug becomes suspicious that there's not a fight.
Yeah.
And the moment that hurts the most, that destroys Kirk, is the death of David.
Oh, God, yeah.
And I love how William Shatner plays this, because Saavik says, Admiral, David is dead. And you see Kirk collapse into his chair. Or does he collapse backwards?
He collapses kind of like backwards, and he slides to the floor.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, saying, you killed my son, you...
Yeah, Klingon bastards.
Yeah, Klingon bastard.
And so this moment revisits us in Star Trek Undiscovered Country.
Yes.
Because the log that eventually he records about never trusting the Klingons comes back. Because this moment in Star Trek 3 echoes throughout the rest of the movies.
Yes.
Because Kirk
develops like hard hate for Klingons.
And it is... And you could argue that it's earned, and that it is absolutely, he understandably hates what the Klingons did. But again, obviously, it was just Krug. Like, he was the only, like, no other. You could make.
He was a rogue Klingon element.
Yeah.
He was not part of the Empire.
Yeah. Well, they make that argument in Star Trek 4 when they come back.
Yeah.
They kind of say, well, Krug wasn't a part of the Klingon Empire. Like, he was a.
Yeah, that's what he's saying. It's it's a rogue element. You can't blame us all. And now this man's totally crazy.
Yeah.
You know, they use it as a good support for their made-up story. It was good. It was good spin there.
Yeah. Also, so here's another element I forgot about. So they're going to kill Saavik, but Marcus jumps backward and attacks the Klingon. He's knocked down and stabbed through the heart.
This is the thing I didn't like about this whole thing.
Okay.
And you maybe back me up on this.
Okay.
Because what we know is Klingons are killers.
Yeah.
But they're honorable killers.
Yes.
Like, they will look you in the eye when they pop you.
Yeah.
This guy walks around behind them.
Yeah.
And then pulls his knife and does like makes it a whole show.
Yeah.
Instead of just doing what a normal Klingon would just like, I'm just gonna stab you right in the face.
Well, here's my caveat to that. The victims aren't Klingons. They do not deserve honor.
I mean, I guess that works, yeah, but
still. They are not worthy of the honor of face-to-face combat because they are not of the Klingon warrior, and they are not worth the effort that it would take. That could be the argument that they would make.
That could be the argument. But still, it just, to me, is kind of like a Klingon, if he's like, just kill one of them.
Yeah.
Klingon's just going to be like, all right, we'll just walk up and stab one of you. Yeah. He's not going to do this slow, let me walk around behind you. And
I'll give you that.
Especially because, they consider these are weaklings.
Yeah.
Probably the only one they should look at as like a threat, which is why Saavik, because if the Vulcan woman pops off, she could probably break all her arms.
Yeah. Which is interesting because she doesn't.
Yeah.
Which would make an interesting story, but the movie's got a movie, and I whatever. So now they realize they got to kill all the Klingons as much as possible, and that means the Enterprise has got to go.
Yeah, this part was another sad part of this movie.
Yes.
Like this movie, I wouldn't say like out of the movies you watch of the extended original universe, which I guess you could call this movie is a downer.
Yeah, it is. It's
and it keeps pulling you down.
Yep, it's like The Empire Strikes Back.
Yeah.
It's just that sad. So they leave the Enterprise for the last time, and as a Trekkie, the destruction of the Enterprise in this is heartbreaking.
I'm not even a Trekkie, and I felt heartbroken over this. It's like,
yeah. So the ship blows up. It burns in the Genesis atmosphere. And Kirk says, "My God, Bones, what have I done?" And Bones says, "What any of us would have done. Like, it had to be done. Like, you had to do this." So they end up on the planet, and now everyone's the part of this story also is they're not safe because Genesis is self-destructing.
Oh yeah, they revealed it long before. Like Marcus revealed it a long time ago.
Yeah.
I mean, he tells them that's like, "Hey, I use protomatter, which is highly unstable." In this thing to get it to kick off fast.
Yeah. And so that unfortunately
that made the whole planet super unstable. So now the planet's like going through all these stages of kind of like growth and getting ready to boom.
Yeah. So they go and find everybody. They find Spock is going through a series of painful physical changes. It's cool how they represent this because it does look like his face is plasticky.
Well, they had like 6 actors with Nimoy to represent him at different stages of aging.
It's freaky deaky. It's just like you're just like, oh, what's happening to the man?
I mean, they do give you that one scene where it's one actor kind of like melding out of another. It was creepy. It was like, what?
But it was conventional effects.
Yeah,
and it was brilliant. So the Spock, he throws one of his 2 remaining Klingon guards to their death. The Enterprise, Kirk shoots the remaining Klingon as McCoy examines Spock, who is physically now near his actual age. Kirk tends to David. He gave his life to save her and Spock, and so it's now the end, like the end of the end. And so now Kruge is here, and the ship blew up. All of his crew is dead.
Yeah. The other thing I was gonna just back up and comment on this like a lot. Saavik throughout the movie keeps talking to David in tones just like your father.
Yeah.
Just like your father.
Yeah.
The risk taker, just like your father.
Yeah.
I mean, unless you really paid attention to like Wrath of Khan or whatever.
Yeah.
Where the boy was trying to totally reject his father in every way.
Yeah.
And then to find out, I was like, you're basically acting exactly like the man.
Yeah. And perhaps his self-sacrifice
that was very Kirk-ish.
Yeah. And also a kind of a conversation on no-win scenario. There was no way to win.
Yeah, there's your Kobayashi Maru.
Yeah, David had his own Kobayashi Maru.
He just wasn't a fighter. I think he would have done okay maybe if he was trained in combat.
Yeah.
But, I mean, or at least put up a little better fight. And if Saavik would have pinched in.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah, helped out a little bit. So
I think that's probably one of the parts where it's like when he died and Saavik didn't even budge. I was kind of like, Saavik, you're a Vulcan.
So
you should just be like wiping out Klingons left and right.
I think they would have been equally matched because Klingons obviously are very strong.
Oh yeah, they're strong too. But I'm saying like she could have helped.
Yeah, but she's also we don't have the confirmation that she's Romulan. So in this movie, we're operating with she is pure Vulcan. So that may be part of her. And Vulcans often are very indifferent to events. They prefer to observe and not participate in those kinds of things. And she doesn't know Kirk like Spock does. If the positions were reversed and Spock was in the situation, I guarantee you Spock would be laying him out.
Yeah.
But Spock is not Saavik, and Saavik is not Spock.
Yeah.
So that's part of it there. So Kirk and Kruge go at it. My favorite line of the movie. I am tired. What is it? I am tired. What does he say? he says, "I have had enough of you," or something like that.
Yeah.
Hold on, I gotta figure this out. So Kirk to Krug, "I have had enough of you." Kirk to Krug. Dialogue. I have had enough of you. I can't find it. Oh, well. I have had enough of you. Anyway, he just kicks at him.
Yeah.
Because he tries to save him, and then Krug goes to stab him. And he says, "That's it. I've had enough of you." And so he falls to his death. And then they get on the ship, and Kirk gives him the choice of helping the Enterprise or dying. And Maltz is content to let the ship be destroyed when the planet below explodes. And Kirk says, "Fine, I'll kill you later."
Yeah.
Oh, I love it. They figure out the way, and they set course for Genesis, for Vulcan, and the planet begins to blow itself apart. Kirk quietly says farewell to his son, and then hold Maltz prisoner. Maltz protests. He said he would kill me. He's like, Kirk condones, "I lied."
Yeah. Well, it's because he knows it's like, that'd be an honor for the Klingon guy to die like that. It's like, I'm not giving it to you.
Yeah.
It's like, I hate you all right now.
Yeah. So the movie ends with McCoy trying to converse with Spock's unconscious body. A really touching conversation between these two. Like, tells his old Vulcan friend he's going to say something he never thought he'd say. He has missed Spock since his death.
Yeah.
And he doesn't know if he can stand to lose him again. These two have been friends and frenemies since the beginning of the original series. Often they will tangle, but often they will still be friends. And it's just they earned this moment.
Yeah.
Because you know that these two do in the end
yeah, because
care.
like when they ask, like, do you accept the danger or whatever, like, McCoy doesn't hesitate. It's like, give me the danger.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just, it's brilliant. So they land on Vulcan, and they begin the process of transferring, and Spock has amnesia. There's a moment where he says, "My father says that you have been my friend. You came back for me." And he doesn't know who Kirk is. He doesn't know who Jim is. Eventually.
Well, I mean, it's only a couple beats.
Yeah. But it's like, the line that Kirk turns it back and explains to Spock, in this case, the needs of the one outweigh the needs of the many.
Yeah.
And I love that turn. I love how that's the line that killed Spock, but now it's the line that brings him back to life.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the reverse.
Yeah.
One kills Spock, the reverse brings him back. And you can tell by, like, everybody there that had just committed treason.
Yeah. We did.
Big time.
Yeah.
They all don't care. They sacrificed all of that for Spock.
Yeah. Yeah. And they are happy. So he says, the last line of it is he says, "Jim, your name is Jim." Kirk says, "Yes." And then they all come together.
Yeah, they all come together in happiness because he's starting to remember little bits.
And the sun rises over Vulcan, and the title line, "And the adventure continues." The lights are going to go out. So, yeah. Or maybe not.
And that leads us into the next movie.
So, yeah, that... So, I like Search for Spock. It has its flaws. But it is a touching movie that allows us to deal with the loss and the gaining of a friend. And I think it's really cool.
I mean, I think it's an okay movie, but I think it could have been better.
Yes, I agree. I'll give you that.
Like, way better than what it was.
Yep, I agree. Okay, so here's the thing about Beyond. Up until a certain point, it's good. And there's a certain point in which it's done.
I mean, to me, it's still New Trek.
Yeah.
It's not Old Trek.
Like the opening scene where
it's closer to Old Trek than it is to the other two.
Yeah.
And the other two that came before are still hot garbage.
Yeah.
But this one's like, it's better.
Well, and so here's the thing about the opening. So what we know now, of course, spoiler alert, the thing that they were getting from the Tenexians at the beginning of the movie, the artifact or whatever, it's the MacGuffin.
Yeah.
It then somehow finds its way onto the ship, obviously stored, and then when we have to have our main baddie, they get called. Like that part is dumb.
Yes.
And I don't know why. I mean, I get it because you want to have something. MacGuffin gonna die and go.
Well, it's the same old. it's the trope of
Yeah.
bad guy wants revenge.
Yeah.
Ultimate weapon.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like, it seems like that's what we got with each one of these movies so far.
Yeah.
They've recycling the same story.
Yeah. They haven't picked a new bad guy. They just keep recycling the same bad guy.
It's like we need a bad guy.
Yeah.
That, and he needs to have revenge against somebody.
Yeah.
And he's got to have some sort of super weapon.
Yeah.
So that's what we're going to do.
I think what they probably did is they watched Wrath of Khan too many times, and they just were like, that's our model.
Actually, that's what I kept thinking. Like, this movie is like, they just decided to recycle Into Darkness's whole storyline.
Right. Yeah.
And throw it back at us.
Yeah.
And take elements of the original Wrath of Khan and throw it in here.
Yeah.
By having the guy that feels betrayed and blah, 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 they're breaking bread with them. It's like, God.
Yeah. I just the opening and the reveal that the aliens are small.
Yeah.
It was cheap.
Yeah.
It was not needed.
Well, I mean, yes, I agree with all that aspects to it, but I agree with what Kirk is doing.
Yeah.
Because that's kind of like that's original Star Trek-y stuff. He's trying to be an ambassador, create peace.
Yeah.
It was super awkward and weird, but overall it's kind of like what they were trying to establish there is that Star Trek, the Enterprise was doing what the Enterprise should do.
Yeah.
I get it.
Yeah.
Just having it be like the small midgety people trying to like bite him and stuff and whatever.
Well, I think if you'd had that scene alone and not had the MacGuffin, and like if you just had that as like this is what our life is like right now.
Yeah.
On the Enterprise. Cool. Slice of life. Onto the story.
Yep.
Don't give me some artifact that you put in on the ship because now we got to do something with that artifact. It's got to be something.
Well, it's Chekhov's gun.
Right.
But that's the trope is what it is.
It
it's
is.
like when you show a gun or something in a movie.
Yeah.
Whatever,
and you're like, oh,
it's got to get used.
because you can't just not have it used. There's no. Why did you write it?
Yeah.
Why did you take?
Why
the
did
time,
you take this time to focus on it?
Write it, shoot it, build it, and then make it into the movie. Like, no, this is.
Because they talk about it's an ancient piece of a weapon.
It's
like,
Chekhov's gun. Chekhov's gun is far older than that thing. Anyway, so then
Chekhov's phaser.
They go to the Yorktown, the station, which is bigger than any Star Trek space station I've ever seen in my life.
And the whole comments of leading up to it, where they're like, "Oh, it's like a snow globe getting ready to pop," and blah 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 in space. I think it's Bones' commentary.
Yeah,
where it's kind of like, all right, so you're not just like lightly overshadowing. You're just punching us in the face,
right,
with what's going to happen.
Yeah,
or what the threat's going to be.
Yeah. Also, apparently, and I forgot this part of the movie, Kirk applies for promotion to Vice Admiral.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what? Why would you? What? Like, has you? Come on. Like, no, that's not Kirk. That's not Kirk. And any characterization in this storyline, in this Kelvin timeline, Kirk has never wanted to be an admiral.
Yeah.
He's never he's like
if we would remember how we talked about in the Darkness.
Yeah.
Where it's like if Kirk would have had that emotional kind of connection with Pike and
Yeah.
they would have built that.
Yeah.
Done that extra storyline work.
Absolutely.
Maybe.
Yeah.
You could see Kirk trying to because Pike's gone, I want to fill up his shoes now.
Right. I want to step
that
into
surrogate
that role.
father figure character thing. But we don't have any of that.
No, we
Instead,
don't.
we got Kirk Captain.
Yeah.
No, Kirk Captain isn't going to apply for moving up in the world.
Yeah.
And I get the side storyline too of Spock wanting to go take up old Spock's thing, and with the influence of old Spock and the death of all the Vulcans in this timeline.
Yeah.
You can totally understand where Zachary Quinto Spock is coming from.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, that storyline makes sense.
It's just with what they were trying to do with Kirk is just what?
Yeah. So this is like literally a 2.5 second or less moment where Hikaru Sulu, who this has been documented endlessly, George Takei, who is gay.
Yep.
Which fine, that's no big deal there.
That's the guy who originally played Sulu. Everybody.
Hikaru Sulu, in the original series, in the motion picture movies, he was not gay.
Yep. When
this decision was made by the writers, they were promoting it as diversity and all this other stuff, and okay, that's fine. But George Takei made a point. He's like, that's not the character. The character isn't. I'm all for diversity. And hey, hi, I'm gay, but this wasn't what Roddenberry intended with that character.
Yep.
You have taken something and you've done the exact opposite of what you needed to do. And there was kind of some, and I don't know if they ever addressed it or if they ever really...
Which, I mean, it's weird backlash.
Yeah.
Because everybody was like, oh, yay, You made this character gay. Hooray for diversity! But Star Trek was already about diversity.
Correct.
In the first place.
Yeah.
And to have George Takei, who's a champion of all those kinds of things,
Yeah.
be like, "No, guys,
Yeah.
Don't do this.
Yeah.
I'm not a fan of this."
Yeah, it's interesting. I wonder, and I think perhaps because again it's George Takei's legacy. Hikaru Sulu is his best known role.
Yeah.
And I think he also felt like this was not like I didn't play the character this way. Like this was not the character, and even in another universe, this would not be the case. So it's just an interesting side note that the writers made that decision with that character.
Yeah.
I think if that had been done with any other character, it would have been a different reaction. But because it's Sulu, an established character in Star Trek lore, Sulu gets married, has a daughter, Demora Sulu, who pilots the Enterprise B in Star Trek Generations.
Yeah.
There's a Sulu at the helm of the Enterprise B with Kirk and Scotty and everybody else who's there. And so I don't know. It's interesting that that's what they decided to do. Writers got it right, and that it is what it is. So now
it's just a minor bit of controversy about this movie.
Yeah, just a little bit.
It's a little bump compared to the rest of the trash they crammed in here.
Yeah. So then we get Kalara, claims her ship is stranded on planet Altamid, which is located past the dangerous, unexplored nebula that will block communications, because of course it will.
Yeah, of course. Star Trek trope.
Kirk volunteers the Enterprise, and so they let him go, and they come under attack, and the Enterprise is destroyed.
Yeah. Yay! Who didn't see that coming?
I just like the way that this happens.
I mean, so far, all of these Star Trek movies, this Enterprise just gets wrecked every movie.
It's the flagship, it's the premiere, and it just keeps getting beat. Like, I don't like. This could have been done better.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. We don't want to wait. So here's the deal. You do it like you do it with the Reliant, right? So let's sketch this out for a second.
Go ahead. Go for it.
Enterprise gets through the nebula. So the nebula still exists, okay?
Yeah.
Gets through the nebula, and they arrive at the planet, or they arrive at the planet, and, Kirk says, sensors, what are we reading? Nothing, sir. What do you mean nothing? I mean nothing, sir. I detect nothing. The sensors are bouncing back readings of nothing. That planet doesn't exist, sir. What do you mean? There's nothing here. Refine the sensors. I have refined them twice. What do you mean there's nothing? There is nothing here. Whatever we are seeing is not reading on sensors. And all of a sudden, they're like something shoots from the planet or something and hits the Enterprise.
There.
And it rocks
a huge orbital gun or something.
Right.
Bam.
And it rocks them. And they go and Sulu goes, shields, but like they see it being shot. Kirk goes, yellow alert, shields up. And shields go up. And he says, all hands, evasive maneuvers, brace for impact. And they move the ship, but it still hits them. It clips the side of them. And Sulu goes, or Chekhov, whoever's in charge of weapons, goes, Captain, that weapon is reading 1,000% of what we are capable of. Explain that if that hits us again, we lose shields.
Yeah.
Evasive maneuvers,
well, the other
get us out of here.
It's like when they don't see it coming, they do this a lot. Like in Star Trek, they don't run around with shields at full.
Yeah.
All the time.
Yeah.
That's like a no-no.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but it's a big no-no.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things like if you shoot off the first shot on a Starfleet ship,
right,
you can wreak some horrendous damage.
But here's what I want. Here's what I want it to be a fight, right? So they get the shields up, and even though they get the shields up, the next hit, they're trying to evade it. They're trying to get back, and he says, "Okay, get us out of here. Get us to the nebula." And Sulu turns around and hits they run into the nebula, and it. Sir, I can't get through it. What do you mean you can't get through it? Sir, it's blocked. The nebula is there's this. I can't get. And then dun 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 dun. Sir, we have planet has fired again, and Kirk can't get out. It's like, okay, evasive maneuvers, get us out of here, get us back into space. And so they start to dodge it, but the shots are coming too quick, and Kirk and they're trying so hard, but then eventually the shots catch up with them, and they start ripping through the shields.
Yeah, there you go.
And then the ship starts to spin like inertia towards the planet. And Kirk goes, what power do we have? Scotty goes, I got nothing, sir. We're on emergency. We're on emergency power.
Abandoned
ship. We're headed towards the atmosphere. It's over. We have to leave the Enterprise. And maybe Kirk goes, but there's got to be a way, Scotty. And Scotty could say, Captain, I'm a miracle worker, but we're past miracles.
Yeah, there
Boom,
you go.
shakalaka,
Well,
evacuate, emergency evacuation. So then as the ship begins to go towards the planet, everyone evacuates, and then all the people get captured.
Then you get captured, and you
Right.
continue on from there.
Right, and then when they get to when Kirk and them land on the planet and whatever, and they see the ship falling down, you can have that parallel of going, Bones, what have I done? And he said, you had no choice. Like this, but again, the weight of that moment would be so much stronger.
Yes. Then the swarm things
Right, the
that are just
swarm
like
stupidity.
suicide things that slam into a ship and dump off troops, which I get. It's a brilliant way to dump off troops.
Right.
But how many troops does this guy have? Considering how much he keeps sucking the juice out of people. Well, I mean, we'll get to that.
Yeah.
But he's sucking the juice out of all these people to extend his life?
Yeah. And the storyline I just recommended avoids having to go to the vault.
Yeah.
It avoids any of that because then it's like that MacGuffin doesn't exist. You don't need that MacGuffin. You can find something on the planet to use. You can still have the storyline of him sucking life out of them, and he can just be bad, and he doesn't need a backstory. He just can be a bad dude who went bad and stayed bad.
Yeah, I mean, he had enough really cool kind of like weapons there on the planet, like the thing that extends his life.
Yeah.
Those drone bot things that he can control super easily. All those other kinds of give him something else.
Yeah. Yep.
Why did it have to be the bees thing too? Which I think it was stolen from another episode of Star Trek or something. There's like a bee episode where they're having trouble dealing with a swarm of things.
Yeah.
And it's just kind of like, okay. Because obviously phasers and photon torpedoes aren't meant for dealing with this kind of threat.
Yeah. So the saucer section separates, which again is not a thing that would have. I mean, it happened in Next Generation, but in the original series, it wasn't really a thing. They're like, oh well, the Kelvin's timeline.
You know what the other difference too is that found is funny. Like, go watch like Search for Spock. When the Enterprise hits the atmosphere, it burns up.
Yep.
As it should.
Yep.
In all these other movies, I mean, we made the comment was in Into Darkness, whatever. Like, doesn't burn up.
Nope.
It's like what?
Yep.
And here we are. It's like it flies through the atmosphere.
Yep.
Doesn't burn up.
Yep. Things make you go, what the heck? So I am skipping all of this because it's just dumb.
Oh yeah.
It crashes into a mountain.
A lot of dumb stuff.
Remains of the crash land. Scott, who has landed elsewhere, runs into Jayla.
Mm-hmm.
She is my favorite.
She's a cool character.
I adore her character. Absolutely, without question. She is my favorite. I love her attitude. I love the way she plays. I love just everything about her. We discover the USS Franklin.
Yep.
Which is a ship similar to the USS Enterprise from the original Enterprise series.
Yeah, with Captain Archer and such. Which is like an ancient ship.
Mm-hmm. So again, dumb stuff. After discovering that the alien artifact originated from the planet on which they had crash landed, Spock reveals to McCoy that he is reconsidering his place. Like, no MacGuffins. Get rid of the MacGuffins. No. Launch them into space. I don't want them.
Well, they kept doing that. We're like, here's the random motorcycle.
Right.
Just so we can have a motorcycle scene. We need the Star Trek Fast and Furious.
Yeah, I don't. All that's missing is Vin Diesel going, it's all about family.
It's family.
It's family.
I'm here for my family.
I'm here for my family.
We're going to stop this.
Commander Vin Diesel, what are you doing here? I'm here for my family. Okay.
Well, I mean, was it Justin Lin or whatever who directed this Fast and Furious movies that did this one?
Right.
Which he did it, like, it's better than the other ones.
Yeah. And then we got okay. Then
the only thing I have Jayla's like thing like kind of was like they didn't really like explain too well is like her whole holographic cloaking technology that she had. I was just kind of like
a little bit
it's kind of awkward.
Yeah.
Like, where did you get this in the time frame where they were attacking your people and juicing them and all this kind of stuff?
Yeah.
And you just happened to develop this technology for cloaking kind of thing. I could see maybe if she was like maybe a Romulan or a Klingon, people that were known for having cloaking technology. Like she was one of their science officers or something. Okay, bam.
Yeah.
Okay, she's got it. She would understand cloaking technology, maybe be able to jury rig something and save herself.
We just didn't give that. We didn't get that.
Yeah, and then like Kroll. Why do they like K noises?
I don't know.
Kroll, the main bad guy who spoilers, whatever, he's from the Franklin, he's a captain of the Franklin, he just forgets where his own ship is.
I don't know. I'm stuck on the fact that we have to have Kalara like as like the MacGuffin character, like, oh, the crew never existed. I've been in League from Crawl since the very start.
Oh, I hated that too.
It was like, but then Kirk's like, oh well, I knew it, so ha ha ha. Oh my gosh!
Yeah.
Don't get your Bourne Identity out of my show, and not even good Bourne Identity, like Hacksaw. Haggis.
Well, I mean, the whole chunk of times where like things are going wrong or whatever, and all she is just sitting there, just like standing there. Yeah. She doesn't say anything about the swarm, which kind of wrecked her own species ships. Like, there's all kinds of stuff that they would have gotten out of her first, before they even went out there.
Also, there's a fuel tank for the maneuvering thrusters. Did you know that?
No.
Here's the deal. Okay, let me talk Star Wars and Star Trek directors and writers. There is no fuel on a Star Wars starship. There is no fuel on a Star Trek starship. There is dilithium crystals, which power the engines, but maneuvering thrusters and impulse engines do not have fuel. They are energy-based, and they are run off of the warp and power core.
Well, unless you're way back in like Franklin age, because I think they still use like I think they did it in Archer's time where they had like the...
We're talking about the Enterprise.
Okay, sorry. Well, the older ships did, because they still use like the attitude where it's like... But it's kind of... The Enterprise wouldn't have.
No, the Enterprise didn't have fuel tanks. And so what they do is they're like, I knew what you were doing. Lights the fuel tanks on the saucer, blows them up, and then it smashes Kalara, which I didn't need her.
No.
I didn't need that. Like, maybe she was I don't want to say that a character's useless, but there was no reason for her to exist.
No.
You invented her because you needed you gotta get you into the
you
thing.
needed the double cross.
Yeah. We're writers, we know what we're doing. Anyway, so what else is in this movie? So, but there's moments, like there's really cool moments, like we love like
the Bones and Spock like thing was great.
Yeah.
Like, perfect little moment of characters working with each other and having some moments. Jayla and Scotty having their moments together. Great.
Yeah.
You know, it's like the Chekhov Kirk stuff I didn't think really went too well. That's ended up just being like action sequences where they didn't really bond. Yeah. Whatever. But like all the others kind of had their moments.
Yeah. So Ensign Syl or whatever Syl is experimented on, dissolving her completely in the process.
Yeah.
But I like that there's an evil in Crawl. Like I love that there is that, like, no, I'm going to kill you. Like, I am a bad man. I'm looking at
her weird little head thing. Whoa. Mm-hmm. Whoa, the creepy head, where it's like and opens up in the back, and that's where she's storing the thing. That was creepy.
It was unnecessary. Again, it's like
it was a sneaky way where to hide it and everything else, but it was like creepy.
It's unnecessary.
Because her little leg things on her head that they had for the alien type was like, why would you have that?
Yeah.
Like, what kind of weird planet did you grow up where you needed head legs?
Yeah.
But they looked like the legs from the xenomorphs from Aliens.
Yeah.
And
so then my favorite line is I don't know who the conversation is having with. I think it's either Uhura or no, not it's Spock and somebody else. You gave your girlfriend a tracking device.
Oh, that was Bones. Bones has some great shots at Spock throughout this whole movie, and they're brilliant. Because he makes the comment because the little Vulcan stone that gives off a radioactive little signal. That can only be picked up at certain wavelengths, but it's like it's always emitting it.
Yeah.
So he's like, you gave your girlfriend a tracking device?
His response was, that was not my intention.
Yeah. And but everybody stares at Spock.
They're like, I'm concerned. We need to talk about this later when we have time. We can't. We got to move.
Yeah, it was a great moment. And Bones can even throughout their little moments where it's he patches up Spock and whatever, he has some great one-liners, just bang, zinging him off Spock.
Yep.
And Spock doesn't really have any comebacks to it.
No, he doesn't. I love, and I do enjoy that. I do, like that. Those are genuine moments that they earned. They earned that engagement.
Yes.
They earned that kind of relationship.
Well, I'm so happy that they actually went and
made
Bones a character.
Yeah.
He fleshed him out.
Yeah, he got a little more to do in this movie. So then they fly the
Franklin.
Franklin.
Or the other one where they show. Spock and it's this one, yeah. It was Spock and Bones when they run off by themselves.
Yeah,
you see Spock picks the phaser. McCoy grabs a medical
tricorder,
he doesn't pick up a gun.
Yeah.
Which I thought was a really, really interesting thing for it's kind of like, all right, all this stuff, gunfire's flying around, whatever.
Yeah.
Bones is still
a doctor.
At heart. He's not a warrior.
Yeah. I'm a doctor, not a warrior.
Yeah.
To borrow that line. There's a moment where they repair the Franklin and they set course for the starbase. And
did you see what else they did in this movie that did in all the others too?
What?
The thing where they fall at a thing and then they pop up. Yay! Falling and popping up.
It's
Yay!
dumb. It's such an overdone trope because we know they're going to survive. We're not idiots. Like
we got to have terminal velocity and we got to fall off this thing. And then you got to get the shot where they shoot up out of nowhere. It's like, all right.
The cool thing, so I watched the CinemaSins version of this. So CinemaSins, they take movies and tear them apart, similar to what we do, but they do it a lot more intense and they have a number counter anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And there's the scene where the ship like comes back up in his back, and Sulu, the actor who plays him, is like has a look on his face of just like that worked. Like he didn't think it would work.
Yeah.
And that payoff is brilliant. I love that like if all you did was that and you didn't show it or you showed it on the screen where he's like, okay, I got that. Like that would have been perfect. But yeah, it's a dumb trope. We just need to get rid of it.
I mean, because they do it in each one of them.
Yep. And then we get the music with the sabotage to destroy all the drone ships. And that's fantastic. I'm okay with that. I get it.
I don't know. I didn't like it because it just seemed too easy especially when the bad guy has such a massive advantage.
Yeah.
And it's just like, here's the magic thing.
This is one of the few times in the Star Trek movies I will sit on the side of the fun fence. I will be okay with it.
But then think of the images they used. They had them like surf the things like a surfboard riding a wave and all that kind of crap. And it's like this whole sequence is kind of dumb. I could have seen it like if there was like. Was it like even Krall's ship was kind of larger than the other ones, whatever.
Yeah.
If there was little control ships that they needed to like infect first and did something like that versus what they did do.
Yeah.
And kind of like make it goofy and whatever.
Yeah, you're talking about New Trek. It's going to just be goofy no matter what you do.
I guess so. Maybe I'm just asking for too much.
You're expecting too much.
Yeah.
It's not that you're asking for too much. You're expecting far too much from this situation. After this, then we get to the and this is at this point I shut down.
This is when the movie like really kind of goes off the rails.
This is where I stopped caring.
Because you also suddenly get like, we're going to fill in all the backstory of the bad guy while everything's blowing up.
Yeah. Yep. I don't care. Krall's original identity, Captain Balthazar Edison.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't need that. You don't need to know. Like, here's the thing. Listen loudly and clearly, Hollywood. And of course, you're not going to listen because you're not listening to my podcast because who listens to this podcast anyway? Those of you who do listen, thank you.
Yeah, thank you guys.
My point is this. Hollywood, we don't need to know the bad guy's backstory. We don't. They're bad. They're evil. They are the bad guy. They are in the business to be bad. I don't need to know, he was a captain before and then something happened to him. And then
he was in the little bits that because I slowed it down and I listened to it again because otherwise you're really not going to catch anything if you just watch through it once.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, he was kind of like a special forces guy.
Yeah.
Fighting in like the Romulan something war.
Something another,
And so he was a trained freaking killer.
Yeah.
And then when they made Starfleet and everything was kind of like happy, joy. Here's a captaincy for all your work.
Yeah.
But that didn't sit right with him because that's where I got that like breaking bread with our enemies thing, where that's what drove him mad. Well, when he was sitting on the planet, it drove him mad because he was still doing his mission to explore when he got sucked into like a black hole or something, and it then wound up on that planet, and then that's when he just slowly kind of went insane.
Again, I don't need to know.
But I mean, it's bad guy. They gotta have bad guy with a vengeance and ultimate weapon. It's the trope. We talked about this. Bad guy needs vengeance and an ultimate weapon.
It's gonna go on our record somewhere. The rest of I literally do not remember the rest of this because I'm looking through like the plot notes here.
Oh, they have a happy, cute little thing where they fly the ship
surprise
down
birthday
the water
party,
whatever.
Yeah, blah 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 blah.
And they have that stupid fight in the middle of the air thing, which the air control thing is like a clear plastic cube in the middle of the station. I'm just kind of
okay. So here's the thing.
And there's no security. You can just climb up to this thing by going up an elevator in a big building and climb into the air thing that can where all the airflow in the planet.
Again, Starfleet security has learned nothing. Actually, I'm sorry. Our writers have learned nothing about Starfleet security.
I mean, at least have the guys in the old 1920s football gear show up. Please, God, something. Like it controls the airflow.
He's referencing the Starfleet security guys from the motion picture.
Yeah, but it's like
referencing.
Yeah,
just in case you're
well, they did, and then you saw them in the full gear, just different colors. And
and they were also in Wrath of Khan, weren't they?
Yeah, they were in Wrath of Khan too.
And
they showed up in all of them. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
They're all there.
But
it was one of those things, just kind of like the airflow for all these billions of people,
right?
And your giant snow globe super space station flows all through one location,
right,
on top of one tall building that anybody can access to.
Yeah.
I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Oh, and you know what? We don't have any other way to cycle it or shut it off.
Right. It was
so painful.
Yeah. No.
And then this super powered weapon took forever to do what it's supposed to do.
Yeah.
I'm like, what kind of weapon?
Right.
It doesn't make it a good weapon.
It is like I said, up until Sabotage, it's a respectable Star Trek movie. Like, there's a few things that could have been switched around a little bit, minor changes, but overall, it's fine. Until the moment where we start doing Sabotage and the ships blow up in the Yorktown. At that point, it's done.
Yeah.
I literally blacked it out. Like, I'm looking on the plot profile on the plot thingy right now, and I don't remember the scene where they're gathered at that table looking at the new starship being constructed. I have no memory of Kirk's surprise birthday party. I have nothing.
They get Jayla into Starfleet Academy.
Yeah.
Like Uhura says something to Spock about the necklace, and Spock turns and sees like McCoy staring at him, giving him a look. That was another great moment there, because McCoy does like the kind of like looks at him meaningfully and then just kind of turns away.
But again, there's those little moments, but they're not enough.
Yeah.
There's not enough of those together to make this thing worth it.
Yeah.
And also, a point of contention, Starship designers. If you're going to make the NCC 1701A USS Enterprise, could you at least make it different from the previous one?
Yeah.
It looks exactly the same. I sound like Gilbert Gottfried, the parrot from Lion King. Could you not make it any different?
Oh, he's Iago from from Aladdin.
Yeah. But like, if you go online and you look, they're like, well, they were certain designed different. It's like, no, you didn't.
No, you didn't.
You didn't do a damn thing. You changed some lines and said it's a new ship. It's not a new ship.
Nope.
You copy and pasted. You lazy designers of starships.
Yes.
Gah!
Make it. Make it different. Do something.
Yeah.
Make it a little more unique.
Right. But no, we can't do that. It's a new Trek.
Well, well, their viewers that they're feeding this garbage to wouldn't be able to know it's the Enterprise. I'm sorry, they wouldn't be able to tell. It has to have the same.
Oh, Lord in heaven.
It's just,
I got
like,
nothing.
but I mean, I agree with you though. Like, this is the better of the three.
Yeah.
It's still garbage,
yes.
but it's the better of the three.
It's not hot garbage. It's not flaming garbage, but it's still a little bit of garbage.
Yeah, I mean, a raccoon can get into this one. The others no, because they're just, that's just bad. You have mutant raccoons coming around, or flaming raccoons running around everywhere.
And then you got turtles, and then you got rats, and you got Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and that movie was a hot mess too.
Yeah, but I'm just. Do you want to cover that one?
No, God, no. There is not enough Cheez-Its and root beer in the world to make it through that thing.
Come on, we should.
No, I don't want to.
Just for nostalgia's sake,
or for pain.
Woo!
God, no.
But man, yeah, this like I said, it's terrible to be like, okay, this is Star Trek now.
Yeah.
And like the TV series apparently are just not
any better.
Not any better.
Yep. No, they're not any better.
Like one of my other friends was making a comment on it where it's like, oh, Picard, the new season came out, and it's kind of like all it is time travel shenanigans.
Right.
I saw
the Borg Queen in like episode 2 has been highlighted. And I'm like, what? Why are we doing the old? Go do something
like,
new.
Why? Yeah. Stop doing. Once you start, like, in my brain, like once or twice touching time things is enough.
Yeah.
If you do any more or make it your whole theme of messing with time, you're done.
Yeah, because you have to keep track of all that time changing. You got to keep a show Bible. So
And it's just because any little thing you do.
Yeah. So another thing that I want to mention before we close the show out, I've watched clips of of series 2 of Picard. Or are we in season 3 now?
I think so.
I don't know what we're at.
I can
and
look at it.
God love him, but Jean-Luc Picard is old,
Yes.
and Patrick Stewart is not good.
No.
I have studiously avoided the content because I didn't want to prejudice myself as much as possible. But I watched a couple of clips and it was like, what have you done to Jean-Luc Picard? And part of the problem is
look, Patrick Stewart is a great actor.
Oh yeah, he is.
So it's one of those things like, what kind of garbage are you giving him?
Yeah. Well, no, but here's the thing.
Plus he is old and kind of, it's time to.
Well, and it's not even that, because I don't want to suggest that an actor becomes too old to act. But the thing is that you put Patrick Stewart, who is upwards of 80 plus years old, and you put him in the midst of a Starfleet bridge, and he has to be quick moving, and he's not moving that quick, and his speed, he's not.
Well, they're also doing the only things I've really seen out of it is action sequences where things are blowing up and people are running around and all.
Yeah.
I'm like, 80-year-old dude ain't gonna do that.
Yeah,
You're gonna have Star Trek Picard visits to get a new hip.
That's a cruel joke. They would actually in Star Trek they would.
Oh well, now remember he's not a.
Oh yeah, he's an android because
an android.
Picard's dead.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert.
Real Picard's dead.
Yeah.
It's
long live the android.
Picard.
Ugh.
And then you
Anyway.
got chunky Data, which is not really Data.
Right, it's something else.
It's like Data with Data's memories copied over.
I don't
So
know.
it's not really Data anymore.
B9 or whatever they called him in Star
Yeah.
Trek Nemesis, because Brett Spiner wanted to kill him, kill his character finally, but they didn't. They
didn't let him do it. Yeah.
Anyway, that's the state of Star Trek. I don't think it's going to get any better anytime soon.
Well, I mean, I have to say it's I'm sorry, I'm backed away from the mic. I have to say it's I always found the character of Data fascinating.
Yeah.
It's just they did the character wrong so many different ways.
Yep.
And we're just kind of like this character that has all this fascination and a huge fan base behind it.
Yep.
But you just didn't really do anything too deep or touching with him.
Yep.
Until you blew him up, and then you made Picard all sad because that was his surrogate son.
Yeah.
But it's kind of like you still didn't sell that right.
Nope. Anyway, I think we need to take a break from Star Trek for a while. We've done 3 episodes, and nothing the conclusion that we've come to draw, and you may share our opinion or you may disagree, and you're welcome to it.
You're welcome to disagree.
If you love New Trek, you love it. You enjoy it. You embrace it. You cheer it on. You champion it.
But you're a sad, sick little person that needs to leave their basement. I'm sorry, what? No.
I'll have an HR conversation with James later. We'll document the conversation. We'll ensure that he is properly disciplined for that statement. Because I know plenty of people who do enjoy New Trek, and I think part of my problem is that I spent my middle school and high school and young adult and all of my life filling my head and eyes and heart and soul with everything from Star Trek the original, from the original to motion to Next Generation to the motion pictures to Deep Space Nine to Voyager to everything that like all the Star Trek that was fit to be on TV and in theaters. I consumed it and I adored it. And
you know
I
what I was
took it to
going to
heart.
do? Just because of all of this, I was going to start watching The Next Generation again.
Yeah.
And I was going to move on the DS9 and everything else.
Yep.
But they're moving it to Paramount Plus now. So that's going to be behind another
paywall.
Subscription wall.
Because it's on
paywall.
Netflix right now.
Yeah, and then you can go watch it right now. And I was going to start doing that. And I was like, cool.
Yeah.
And then I started realizing, oh no, they're pulling it the end of this month or something.
For the love.
So I'm like, okay, so I don't have time to watch any of these unless I do a total huge binge, and I can't commit the time.
Right,
to
and
that.
then you have to pay more money for Paramount.
And then I'd have to move over and pay money for Paramount Plus to get on their streaming.
Netflix is raising their prices to $19.99 at the end of the month.
Yeah,
and that makes me sad.
Which is why I'm probably gonna kill that. I'm gonna pull my plug.
I think I'm probably gonna have to as well. It's weird to think about that. I canceled Hulu. The Amazon Prime is just because I have an Amazon Prime membership, so I get that no matter what.
Yeah,
but yeah, Netflix, there's not a lot on there that I want to watch anymore. And so I just, I think it's time to, and it's weird today to say that, to cut the cord, start cutting the streaming services. But unless you're going to, if you're going to take my stuff and put it on your own platform, okay, maybe I'll sign up with you someday. But that's not going to be forever. Like, I'll do a couple months to watch my shows.
Yeah.
Or I'll go buy them on DVD if I have to. Because I'd rather own physical property.
Yeah, I kind of feel the same way. It's like, give me the Blu-rays.
Yep. But
I'm just like, I'm tired of all the multiple streaming services. And it's just kind of like, it's become like the old cable wars.
Yep.
Where it's kind of like every channel, suddenly you have to pay for every individual channel to get all the different shows.
We have Discovery Plus because we love watching Dirty Jobs, and we don't pay for cable, so it's like, well, we'll just pay an extra $12 a month for Discovery Plus, I guess.
Yeah.
Because we enjoy watching Micro.
Yeah, I mean, I might yank like Netflix because I just and buy like, what's the one with that has like Food Network on it? Because I love watching Food Network.
That's Discovery Plus, I think.
Okay, well then, I'm probably going to join you over there because Food Network is good watching.
Yes. It's good stuff.
Guy Fieri, you're great. You're a good human being.
There you go.
Even if you look like the singer from Smash Mouth. But whatever.
Somebody once told me the world is going to roll me. I ain't the sharpest tool in the head.
Who had the look first?
Probably Smash Mouth.
Like, it's got to be like a Googleable thing where it's like, who had it?
It's Smash Mouth. Guy Fieri.
Fieri. But yeah, I mean, he's a great dude. Yeah. And I love watching diners, drive-ins, and dives.
Yeah. Well, there you go.
Great show.
There's your
good food. I found some good spots just to buy food when I'm visiting random cities.
There's your recommendation.
I need to find the episodes where he's gone to like Denver or whatever and go hit those spots.
We maybe over the summer we work on that a little bit.
Yeah, we get your camera.
Yeah, that'd be kind of fun. There you go. That's your teaser. With that bombshell, my name is Aaron.
And I'm James.
And this has been Nerds by Screenlight. We're going to go beam ourselves into the past and watch some classic Trek and find our hope and our souls and our future in the final frontier. Until next time.
Bye.
The raspberry flap of ours will be out in a moment. The kitchen is closed.
You've been listening to the Nerds by Screenlight podcast, presented by Create at Morgan Productions, located in Fort Morgan, Colorado, USA. For more information on our production house, other podcasts hosted here, and further details, please visit www.createatmorgan.org. You can find us on Twitter at the handle CreateAtMorgan. Create at Morgan is a school club at Lincoln High School, our alternative education campus in Morgan County. Our sponsor is Aaron DeLay, the language arts teacher at Lincoln. Send any feedback to adelayedteacher@gmail.com. Thank you for listening to our podcast.